Like, this city has a history of consistently reinventing itself. If you look at the industries that have grown up here and that have phased into something new, has happened consistently over and over and over again since the city was originally born.
Philly grew in population for the first time in 50 years in the last census. So everybody thought it was going to become the 6th largest city in the country, but it didn't. It stayed at the 5th. So, sorry, Phoenix.
And when I came to Philadelphia in 1985, I lived in South Jersey. I worked at 4th and Market. We took the train into work every day, and the minute we got out of work, you got out of the city of Philadelphia.
In the 80s, everybody wanted to hang out on South Street, but getting to South Street was potentially dangerous.
You know, you could buy drugs on the corners pretty nearby. I was living across the street from this SRO, it was basically a flop house, and there were a number of strip clubs all along 13th Street. Now, the 13th Street strip clubs are gone. The strip club at the corner of 13th and Locust is now a place for parents and kids. It's this like cool little, it's called Nest. It's this cool place where people have classes and kids go for tumbling, and there's a cafe. I mean, it's the opposite of a strip club.
I think that as the city started receiving exposure as you know, an affordable place to live, I mean, starting with that, you know, whether you love it or hate it, 6th Borough article in the New York Times, you know, people are really intrigued by this city.
The city has invested in forming business improvement districts, in forming community development corporations. And those groups have really focused on quality of life.
So Philadelphia Airport, years ago, when there was the international airport and there was still this old little terminal off to the side, there used to be a painting on the side of an airplane hangar that said, "Philadelphia, America's most livable city."
You can raise a family here, you can build a company here, you know, there's art, there's history, I mean, there's so much culture, music, and so many things that you can round out sort of your life with here. I live in West Philadelphia. I could drive here, I could take public transit here, I could walk here. I choose to ride my bike here because the bike lanes in Philadelphia are excellent. I love riding my bike, and it's a great way to start my day and end my day is riding my bike through the city.
Penn did this program where they decided that, well, West Philadelphia is not really a very nice place to live. So what we're going to do is we're going to offer all of our employees a housing package where we're going to give them a grant for renovations, and we're going to guarantee their mortgages, guarantee 125% of their mortgage. So that encouraged members of the Penn community to buy houses inside this particular district surrounding the university in West Philadelphia. So as more people with Penn jobs moved in, it also attracted other people who didn't work at Penn but wanted to be part of that community.
So if you have professionals or skilled tradesmen or young people who are freelancers or they're starting up their own business, when they live downtown, maybe not in Center City, but say Fishtown or Northern Liberties, or where we're sitting here now, what do they call this, Passyunk Square or Queen Village, you get that multiplier effect, because if you live there, you got to do your laundry there. So somebody's got to start up a business, a laundromat.
I don't think things happen in a vacuum. So I think that you're seeing, as Philadelphia as a city has continued to sort of emerge and grow its restaurants, its nightlife, its social scene, and become sort of a good place to live and a great place to sort of, go out, and also a good place to, raise a family. It's not, it's definitely linked. That's definitely linked to sort of the increase in sort of the creative class. No longer does someone feel like they need to, move to New York in order to sort of have a good quality of life and start a company. I think you can get both here.
And then I would say 2004, 5, 6, 7, there was a big kind of lull. And then around like 2000, I guess probably 2008, 2009, you started seeing a lot of things start to come back.
If you saw a chart, it would go up and then the crash would happen and it would come down, and now we're like steadily going up a little more sustainable, I think.
Probably about 5 years ago, I noticed startup activity pick up again, perhaps in parallel with the start of the recession.
One of the benefits of the recession actually is more kind of industry people go out and try entrepreneurial initiatives.
Many successful startups started, the last generation started out of necessity because someone lost their job during the last economic turn, forced them to think differently, forced them to go down a different path. And during the recession, they made that personal investment. Recession picks up and it's like a slingshot. So in a weird way, I have to tell you, the best time to start a business is timing inside a recession.
People have time on their hands, right? The definition of risk changes. Right? If you've got no job and you've got no income, spending your time on a new concept, a new company, a new technology, what have you got to lose?
You could either try to fight hard to find a boring, unfulfilling job, or you can try and pursue your passion and build it into something that where you're charting your own destiny, or you're master of your own destiny.
But I think the other part was I started to see a lack of trust. Here we have major corporations downsizing. We have the government starting to have a debt crisis and pull back on benefits, and people became concerned about their futures. And I think there was a shift towards people considering entrepreneurialism as a way to take accountability for their own futures.
I suspect that if you look at the data, when the economy is roaring, you've got lots of people who are following the money and taking the easy job and working 9 to 5 and getting a good paycheck. And there's always going to be those people for whom that is a fulfilling thing, like their work is not their life. They work to work and get a paycheck, and then the weekends or the off time is when they pursue their passions, their hobbies, deal with their family or whatever. I'm not built that way. A lot of the people that I know, I'd say probably most, if not all the people I know in this community, the startup community, are not built that way. It's, if we're not working on what we love, we're miserable.
I really think that the tide turned when venture capitalists and lawyers and entrepreneurs started blogging and started recording what they knew and sharing what they knew and discussing what they knew. And you can go back to 2005, 2006 and find these great series of blog posts where people break down all of the terms of a seed stage venture capital investment and discuss what different terms you might see and why, and their history and whether or not their market for different types of investments. And that kind of knowledge sharing had just never happened in any volume outside of the physical confines of the Bay Area before.
As the transparency and communication about the startup process has, it's gotten far more democratized. People in Philadelphia now have far more access to sort of understanding what's going on in the tech startup space than someone in Silicon Valley did 10 years ago.
The barrier to starting a new business has gone down significantly. A new software company can be started for $20,000, $30,000, $50,000, where just 5 years ago it was 3 or 4 times that price, and 10 years ago it might have been $1 million to create the same piece of software that today can be started for 25 grand.
Affordability of technology. I mean, thinking about starting a company or being a freelancer with the kind of power you can buy in a MacBook Pro or something, which is an investment, but it's nothing compared to what it used to take to get the means of production.
Back in the boom, you'd need $1 million Sun server to put up a property on the web. Today, at 10 cents an hour, you can get an Amazon server and do the same thing.
The reality is today, for what used to cost $10 million even 12 or 13 years ago, you can do for $1,000 out of your garage, and you can have that same exact test, and you don't need to really exhaust so many financial resources in order to get that answer. And as a result of that, VC firms today have an expectation that you come to them with data and with numbers and with a proof of concept and with a minimum viable prototype. Whereas back then, you can build a minimum viable prototype for less than $1 million.
Anyone could be an entrepreneur. You have an idea, and one of my first angel investments was a company called Feedster. I lost all the money I invested in it, but interesting anecdote was they raised $1.5 million. They were going to build a search engine for blogs, and they raised $1.5 million. And the day after they closed, they signed a purchase order with EMC to spend about $1 million to buy the disk that was needed to store, every blog on the internet. So, they spent $1 million out of their $1.5 million on hardware. If that company was getting started today, the founder would whip out their credit card, go to Amazon Web Services, and the first month bill would have been under $100.
The world's just a very different world, and I think it levels the playing field and allows a place like Philadelphia with tremendous human capital and a great history of entrepreneurialism to sort of build and grow more dramatically like it's done in the last 5 years.
So I think sort of the rise of Philadelphia, along with the lowering of the barriers to what it takes to start a company, that's the two of those things combined have really played a big role in Philadelphia's sort of resurgence in terms of the growth of the tech community here.